Give me a second here. It doesn't look like it's going yet. It's not. Oh, hold on. Obviously, I did something wrong here. Okay.
Just got the notification from YouTube.
Oh, you did? No.
Mm-hmm.
Go into. Oh, it's Facebook. That's the one that didn't work. Do it again. Check it one more time. It's always Facebook. Okay. Now it probably won't go back on YouTube and everything or Twitter because the title's the same. Oh, now it's going. It's been going for a minute and 20 seconds. Perfect. Whatever. Let me take a look, Pete, and then we can embarrass ourselves and just start like nothing ever went wrong. Hang on. Oh yeah, it's going. Fuck. All right, here we go.
This is Gateway City Sports.
It's a trap!
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration?
This is the Team of Rivals podcast.
Everything you want to hear from the big sports to the big screen.
He's all by himself, fires into the end zone. Caught! Touchdown! No! Vaughn into the windup in his first offering. Just a bit outside. He tried the corner and missed.
He doesn't like you. I don't like you either.
Time winding down. Michael for three. Yes! She is gone! I don't believe what I just saw. Go crazy, folks! Go crazy! You believe in miracles?
Yes! You may fire when ready.
What?
Welcome, Cubs and Cardinals fans, to the Team of Rivals podcast. Proud members of the Gateway City Sports Network, where you can find great podcast and blog content. This is May the 4th. Follow us on social media at Team of Rivals Pod, or find us online at teamofrivalspodcast.com. And for those of you who prefer to watch the show, we also post to YouTube, Facebook, and Rumble. So hit the like and subscribe buttons and be sure that notifications are on so that you know anytime we post new content. Joining me for this week's show, co-founder of the Team of Rivals, and number 125 in the 2022 edition of the Top Cards on Twitter, Ron Nuttall.
You're not going to do this the whole show, are you?
I don't know. I might.
I mean, okay. If you want to, that's fine. I guess.
Well, you know, the big
terrible
news
for audio,
week.
though. Yeah, turn the light back on there.
Look, the big news last week was that, Pete's got a girlfriend. And, I just kind of figured that I'd test that and see how long it lasts.
Mm-hmm. And it doesn't look like...
This is going to surprise everyone who's longtime fans of the Team of Rivals. It's May the 4th. It's Star Wars Day. So, of course, Elliott's not here.
Yeah, of course. And the other funny thing is that when I was monkeying around with all this stuff, it defaulted back to the titles from last week on Twitter. So while it's up on Twitter Live, I don't think it made the Facebook cut this week, which put me at a little bit of relief that I don't have to go through and share everything, just to get, scrap out whatever reviews. And there's nothing like getting into a good old-fashioned argument with baseball fans on Facebook these days anyway. It's always a great deal of fun. Don't miss it at all.
Especially when the Cardinals are as excellent as they are.
We will have to do somewhat of a deep dive into that. That is rather shocking, I think.
We'll get into that. But you know what? Why don't we look? Topic at hand. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we started the episode in the mood. So I kind of reckon that we should follow along those lines. Have you seen Jedi in the theaters?
No, I really, really wanted to. I'm assuming you were able to do it. There was only one theater that it was playing in the Charlotte area, but it's a good 35-minute drive away. And with the boys playing baseball this weekend, they had, games all day on Saturday, practices on Monday, games on Tuesday, Wednesday. I know, boohoo, right? But it's not that easy for me to get out to the theater unless it's here in our little village in Davidson where it's got its own theater in there. If there's something I really want to watch, it's easy enough to scoot on over there and watch it. But finding time during the week or even on the weekends has been a particular challenge. A little disappointed, but I do have a projection screen out in my garage, so I can enjoy it in big screen format and surround sound just about whenever I want. So kills that motivation a little bit to make that.
Still not the same.
I know, but it's still pretty damn good.
Yep.
But yeah, no, I did check out movie times and everything. I was like, gosh dang it. We got some IMAX theaters that are a lot closer. They just weren't carrying it. So
interesting.
Yeah.
Well, Charlotte must hate Star Wars because I don't know that there's a theater in my area that isn't showing it.
Chicago's thick with Star Wars fandom. I mean, they hosted a celebration there. Let's come on. I think the 4 big cities, you could probably pick just about any theater you wanted, and it was probably playing there. New York, Chicago, LA, and probably places down in Texas like Houston. They probably had it, in abundance. Probably even a lot of the bigger cities in Florida or other areas. But yeah, not here. Only one. And it wasn't. I couldn't fit it. Couldn't find a good time.
Well, I took the last weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And when it finished, he was suitably impressed.
Yeah.
And I realized that as I was watching it, it was the first time that I had seen it on a big screen since I saw it on a big screen 40 years ago.
I went to I guess in 97, I think they released them all again, somewhere around that time frame where it was a special edition, which I'm assuming that's what was playing.
Yeah, I don't think I caught it that time around.
No, I did. I caught all of them during that time. I was in the military. I was in my first year, still going to school. I was in Pensacola, Florida, but I caught them all down there. And yeah, it's great. I mean, it's great if you can catch those, but gosh, I couldn't find the time to do it. I really wanted to, but maybe I'll make it another 10 years and I can go to the 50 year.
Maybe.
Yeah. Who you chatting with?
So did you guys do anything for the day?
No, I've been in the office all day long. Again, I've had long days at a job that can be pretty demanding, and baseball every night. The boys practice back to back on Monday, and I head coach one of them and I assist on the other. A game Tuesday night, a game Wednesday night, and this is the first night that I really didn't have anything that I was committed to in the evening. So no, this has been a rather uneventful May the 4th for me, unfortunately.
Well, it kind of flew past the boy. I mean, obviously he got his fill on Sunday, but today flew past him. We were a little bit too busy doing, homework, making dinner, getting ready for the show tonight. We didn't get to do anything special.
No, these days,
so maybe this weekend.
These days, it's hard to find time, man. Most people are happy to have a 24-hour day. I need like 2 more hours in it, and mainly at night, just to recharge the battery and sit there and not be asking any questions, just to have a brief period of time where nobody needs anything from you. That's the one thing I wish I had that I can't buy. I'd throw money at that problem if it was available.
Oh, I know the feeling.
I mean, the solution, I would absolutely throw money at it. But hey, anyway, can't do that. It's a sick fantasy I have.
All right. So do we want to talk good things for the Cubs or bad things for the Cardinals?
I don't know what good things you're going to talk about with the Cubs, because this whole Central Division is one heaping pile of dung. They've lost combined 18 games in a row combined. I heard today.
The Cubs just wrapped up a 1-6 stretch, which obviously not good.
Nope.
But I think the thing that Cubs and this is where This is where I'm really disappointed that Elliott wasn't able to join us, because I legitimately had a question for him. Cubs Fandom is all excited because our hot first base prospect, Matt Mervis, will be joining the team tomorrow. And so a little bit of background.
Never Nervous Mervis.
No, Mash. His nickname is Mash Mervis.
Nah, I like Never Nervous Mervis.
Well, we'll see. We'll see how nervous he gets. And
Do you
how
remember
nervous
that?
he
Do you
makes
remember
us.
that basketball player from NCAA, Purvis Ellison?
Never Nervous, Purvis Ellison.
That's right.
Yes, indeed.
Reaching back in time.
So here's the story with Mervis for the Cardinals fans who don't pay attention to Cubs prospects. Matt Mervis was a undrafted free agent out of, I believe it's Duke, in the 2020 draft. And basically the only reason that the Cubs were able to sign him as a UDFA was because that, if you remember, that 2020 draft was the COVID draft and it only lasted 5 rounds. And everybody agrees that had the draft been longer, somebody would have drafted him. But he wasn't a priority pick for the top 5 for first 5 rounds. So the Cubs were able to sign him, and to say he's torn it up in the minors is an understatement. 2021, he started out at Myrtle Beach, and he got a 3-game cup of coffee in Iowa to wrap the season up. Then last year, he started out at High A in South Bend, got the promotion to Double A, destroyed the pitching at Double A, and went up to Triple A. And then he started at Triple A this year, and he's done nothing but hit. And the point I was going to make to Elliott is I can't think of another Cubs prospect who has come with this much hype since Ian Happ, maybe Wilson Contreras. It's been a while. Like Nico Horner there wasn't time for the hype machine to start on Nico Horner, because remember the Cubs had just drafted him and then they had a rash of injuries at shortstop and they had to bring him up. And now they never sent him down. So
I'd
the
say
hype
Bryant
machine didn't start.
I'd say Bryant had a fair amount of hype, right? I mean,
he did, but Happ and Contreras came up after Bryant. So I'm thinking of like the last time that the Cubs had a prospect who had some buzz around him. So I think there's a lot of expectation in Wrigleyville about their new first baseman. And a lot of questions about what the corresponding move will be. What are they going to do with Trey Mancini and Mr. Prestige Value when the hot rookie comes up? Because you don't bring him up just to sit him on the bench. You got to be bringing him up to play him.
Yeah, or you keep him down if you're not going to do that, right? Like so.
Right.
Yeah, I'll throw a word of caution at the optimism on prospects, no matter how hot they were in the minor leagues, because I've lived through this bullshit for quite a while.
Jordan Walker.
Temper the expectations, right? Like just, hope they can, don't put the expectations on a player that they're going to, put the team on the shoulders and capture the division. That's the mistake a lot of my own fans make with just about any prospect that gets called up. I'm talking a majority of them. There are some that are pretty sharp and pretty reasonable about it, but I think there's a lot of them too, that any young player coming up is like the next golden ticket. So it's kind of cool when you're panning for gold like that in the draft. And once in a while, you pluck somebody that nobody else valued or wanted to give that shot, but they make the most out of it. Right. And you think about a player who largely goes undrafted or not noticed. And what do they have to lose when they get their shot? Right. So good for him that he's capitalized, and good for him that he'll get a taste of it at least. And yeah, I think if they're going to bring him up, this is probably the season to do it, right? Who's playing first for them? Hosmer most of the time, or is he going to DH? Or
it's Hosmer and Mancini who have been splitting most of the time at first.
Yeah, so I'd imagine this kid and Hosmer are probably going to do that, right?
Yeah, well, I know there's been a lot of talk because they're both lefties. So yeah. Hosmer is probably going to be the one who loses at bats and playing time to this kid, if this kid is going to get a legitimate shot. But they were talking with Hosmer just within the last week, and he basically flat out said, I'm here for it. I want to contribute to this team, and I recognize that I'm on the downside of my career, and if I can help this kid transition to the big leagues and help him grow into the role, I'm more than happy to do it. So
yeah, always good when
Prestige
you get
value, baby.
Well, and always good too when you get a player with that kind of attitude, knowing that I'm in the back half of my career. This is my role now, and we've seen a couple guys do it. Albert was willing to accept that role to an extent last year, right? And until they figured out in the back half they really couldn't afford to keep him out of the lineup, that he had to be a little bit more than just a mentor at that point. But it's always cool when a player steps up and does that. It's probably a hard thing to do. You've been top dog in most places you've been, and you got to take a step back. But I don't know. I guess there's probably the smart guys probably mentally prepare for that. So that's cool. So
go ahead.
No, I mean, it's fine. You got a rookie coming up you're excited about. I'm just telling you, temper it a little bit because be patient with them. It's like the analogy I always use. Some people just they have no idea what the definition of decant is, and they just suck it right out of the bottle. So that's what you have to do with rookies to a degree, right? So a lot of people don't know how. They can't control themselves.
Yeah, and it's interesting because there's a perfect contrast with it right now, and that is, I'll admit to being a big one on the hype train, but just days ago, Miggy Amaya, the Cubs' top catching prospect, was called up because Yan Gomes, I don't know if he has a concussion or if he's just in the protocol and they're protecting him, but they brought Miggy Amaya up to step in, and he actually got to start today. I think it was today, or maybe it was yesterday. Anyway, the Cubs' hot catching prospect was brought up from Double-A. Nobody expects him to stick.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Everybody is expecting this is a cup of coffee until Gomes can come back. And then the thought is that instead of sending him back down to Double-A, that Amaya is going to go to Triple-A and be basically the primary break glass in case of emergency care catcher for the Cubs. But yeah, you've got those two contrasting right now. You have a guy who was the big bonus baby hype candidate at catcher, and now the expectations, because of all the injuries and everything that he's had the last couple of years, have been very low. The expectations have been tempered. But Matt Mervis, who came largely unheralded into the Cubs organization, all the hype surrounding him. So you're right. I think you got to temper those expectations and also hope that the Cubs do everything they can for both characters or both players to prepare them and protect them so that they get the most out of this experience, and so that the expectations don't end up destroying promising careers like has happened many, many times in Chicago.
Yep.
Corey Patterson, Russell,
Cardinals World Series champion, Corey Patterson. I bet a lot of people didn't know that, and I bet a lot of people don't care, but I think it's pretty ironic. Who from who am I missing here? Who was I guess Hayward was the obvious former Cardinal that was a Cubs World Series champion. Is there anybody else in that club?
No, Edmonds was gone by then.
Oh yeah, in 2016. For some reason I was thinking Mott, but I think he made one or two playoff appearances with the Cubs. But
I don't think he was on the team though in 16.
No, he wasn't. No, he was. I think he was done by then. So what else Cubs related? Because I've got probably fair amount of shit to.
Couple of hours worth of content.
No, not really. It's really not. I know that my dad called me today, and I was a little worried. I picked up the phone. Dad doesn't call often, so whenever he calls, I'm like, oh shit, it's my, I've got grandparents that are in their 90s and everything. So when he does call, I'm like, hope everything's okay. Answer the phone,
right?
And he calls me and he's bitching about the team, and he's right, and while he's on the phone with me, Braden calls. I'm like, here we go. This is early in the early evening, I guess, but I didn't get to watch hardly any of the Angels series. I hardly got to watch anything on the West Coast trips. Those games start so late, but look, I don't know who you point a finger to, because I think it's the players are they're the ones that are trying to perform. It's the coaching staff. It's the manager who's made some questionable moves. He deserves the criticism. The front office, who a lot of us have been pointing our fingers at for a long time, of just what kind of roster they've put together. Ownership, for supporting this strategy that they've stubbornly stuck to for a long time. So I wouldn't say I've got a lot on my chest, because a lot of it I've already said throughout the years on here. This is just manifesting in a way that is shocking. And it's shocking to look at the standings and see how the standings are bookended right now, with Pittsburgh up top and St. Louis at the bottom. 32 games into the year, it's not what you expect to see. Would I be that surprised if the Cardinals were a few games under 500 right now, maybe struggling, but not losing like they are right now? Yeah, I probably wouldn't be too shocked. We'd still be griping about it out there on Twitter and everything. But this one, it's gotten past that point of just being a little surreal, where it's like, okay, if you look at a lot of individual players on this team, like they're not bad. Like what team that sports the corners that the Cardinals do, you think that would end up this way?
Right.
And it's really a shock. So you look at the individual players before a single game was played. This is probably a team in that division they should probably finish at top.
Everybody had them picked to win the division.
Yeah, even in your real picks. I know your fake pick didn't say that, but your real pick did. But I mean,
no, I think you've got them reversed.
Well, maybe I do. But look, did any of us have expectations that they could take a real shot at, LA or Atlanta or even the Mets? No, not really. I think the pathway is probably going to go through one or all of those three cities, right, to get to where you want to get. And I don't think the Cardinals had a realistic chance to do that anyway. Best case scenario, they were going to, win this division by a few games, maybe double digits. Who knows? Depends on what kind of shape the rest of the division's in. But they've really dug a hole for themselves now, where they would have to play outstanding baseball damn near the rest of the way in order to make this up. So really what we wonder now is we've heard clips of the post-game interviews, and like no manager is going to come out there and dog his team on the microphone or take shots at the front office on the microphone. It's probably a shitty situation to be in, to have to explain this every day and go up there saying, hey, we believe in ourselves, we're putting the work in, these guys really care. I don't know what else a manager can say in a microphone. It's got to get old, right? But it makes you wonder, what should they be doing at this point? Firing a manager, I don't think is going to do anything. No. Been down that road. Knowing the Cardinals, they'll ultimately hire somebody internal anyway that has bought into the system, right? That's how they've been doing it. That's Mo's MO. So I don't expect anything beyond that. So I think just dumping Ollie right now, no matter what you think of the dumb decisions he's made, I don't know what kind of impact that's going to make. Really, I don't even know.
What do you think, Ron? What do you think the threshold is? Where are they, and at what point before they start thinking tank? Before they start selling off?
Man, I don't know. That's a great question. There's part of me,
because this division is winnable. Even as poorly as they've played, this division is still winnable.
Sure, and
the Pirates are not going to continue,
and they're likely to hold on. I think well through May, probably past May, to try to see if this team can figure out how to turn something around. But I probably don't expect the front office to do anything meaningful until we get into June. That would be I think they'll give them a few weeks here to see if they can turn something around. I'd be a little surprised they did anything before. Wouldn't be surprised they didn't do shit after that. But one way or the other, I think that, again, firing a manager, I don't think it's going to make a damn bit of difference. I don't think they'll do it. Half of me kind of, you said tank, tear it down. There's a part of me that, I know this will upset what, people claim they're true fans and always want the Cardinals to win, but in the state they're in, I don't care if they're winning 100 games in the regular season. They're not going to, again, they can't compete with the top end teams in the National League. They're not going to get through them. If you had to bet your mortgage on it, nobody's going to be betting on the Cardinals to take out the Dodgers. So, or the Braves, or the Mets, or the other 14 teams in the National League right now, the way they're playing. So, part of me does want something drastic like that to occur. I think I've been calling for it for a little while, Pete, where there's just something about this mix of players. And it's been that way. It is that way this year. It was that way last year for me. I said it on here many times, where I've really struggled to watch this team play. It's just not fun. And the limited free time that, people like you and I have, like, we're not going to spend our time watching this. It's just not, it's not fun. The entertainment factor is really low. It's probably at an all-time low, and I'm just not going to spend my time doing it. So part of me does want them to do something drastic, to finally, something that will shake the organization to its foundation that gets them to question heavily this strategy that they've stuck to, where they do just enough, but we all know that they don't do enough. They do just enough to finish in a very weak National League Central, but they don't do enough to compete beyond that. I think all of that tactic year over year over year has caught up to them now, where I don't. There's no fix. There's not one thing they can do right now. I think that changes that. What I'd like to see them do is, figure out a different way, or what words I'm searching for here. I don't know. I want something fundamental to change with how they operate. I have for a while, but I think this is it should be a clear sign to them that they cannot keep operating the way they are, placing bets on the wrong people, refusing to spend on even mid-level talent to come in and supplement the team. Their formula they have been reluctant to adjust and adapt and change, and they've stuck to this formula that they've stuck to for years. Trade for a guy, hope he wants to stay, and then keep him that way. And they'll spend a little bit of money. They usually don't spend it very well. Matt's being a recent example. I'm not going to throw Contreras into that yet. I can get into the pitching and him here in a bit, but there's a lot for them to do. They do need to tear it down. I think they need to get rid of some of the dead ass weight, like Tyler O'Neill. I was done with that experiment 2 years ago. Players like him, I'm not just going to pick on him. Dylan Carlson's extremely light bat. But here's the catch to that, right? As much as I want them to tear it down and maybe get some new blood in there, you're not going to get anything for those guys the way they're playing right now. That's the catch, right? Like, you're just not going to get anything for Carlson or O'Neill, or, I think I put guys on that tier. There's nothing you're going to get for them right now. So what's going to happen is now they're stuck in this loop that they're always stuck in, where they want to play them. And even if they're going to entertain trading them, they've got to establish some value. They don't establish value. So, in front of the microphone, it's, we believe in him. And, this goes on and on and on. How they've been reluctant to fortify the pitching staff is just something it's just completely unacceptable how they haven't done shit with pitching. They just haven't. They've put a hope and a prayer on a couple names that are coming up from the minor leagues, hoping they'll stick, and it's just not working. So lots of flaws. And you get guys like Arenado, who's putting a lot of stress on himself trying to carry the team, going, I guess his attempts, probably, if you get inside his head, he's trying to do too much. And just, he looks terrible.
He's got a 73 OPS plus as of the start of tonight's show. Yeah,
it's just not, this mix of players, manager, and organizational strategy is just it's hit damn near rock bottom. I don't know how it could be any worse than what we're looking at right now. So fundamentally, something has to change with what they're doing. I'd like to see them get a manager in there that is allowed to at least question and push back. And Mike Schilt was fine with them as long as he was the company yes man. As soon as he started pushing back, he was gone, right? And it's just, I worry a little bit about if this is the way they are with players and with managers, who the fuck was going to want to go there? Right.
Well, as long as they say, look, credit where due. The Cardinals haven't been in this position in 50 years.
Yeah, in the 70s maybe, but yeah, it's about 50 years ago. Right.
Right. They haven't been this bad. Mm-hmm. And they should, and looking at their roster, yes, the pitching we knew going into the season was a question mark.
Yep.
But looking at this roster, this team should not be this bad.
Right.
So you guys are a little spoiled, right? And you haven't had to deal with this, and most importantly, the front office hasn't had to deal with this because their perception has been everything's working just fine.
I'm telling you, man,
we're always in contention.
Yep.
Stadium's full every summer. This is working. Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter that we haven't won a World Series in almost a decade.
More than a decade.
Right? So,
yep.
Let me ask you something. Do you think that there is any circumstance Because look, right, you said it. You're trading off parts that aren't going to make any difference. Even if you're looking at guys like Michaelis, Wainwright, who could make a difference to a team in their push, but they're not game changers, right? They're not Shohei Ohtani, who's going to bring back a load.
They're a rotation filler if you need it. If you need a guy to eat up innings in August, September, that's what you're going to get.
If you need that fourth outfielder, or if you need an outfielder to bridge the gap until your star outfielder comes back off the injured list, right? Then you're trading for one of the Cardinals' many outfielders.
Yeah, which will probably.
What do you think it would take for them, or do you think it would ever happen for them to consider moving Arenado and Goldschmidt? Because those are the only two players that they've got. Obviously, they're not moving Contreras. Nobody's going to trade for him. Nobody traded for him last year. Nobody's going to take him this year, especially not with the contract. Do you think that the Cardinals front office would consider moving either of those two, because they do have some cost certainty?
I don't think so. I don't.
They're both valuable. They're your most valuable pieces.
Yeah, and no, I don't think the Cardinals would do that unless either player or both ask for it. Like if they ask for it, I do think it can happen. But if they don't, no, the Cardinals aren't going to trade those two guys. Would it be necessary, right? Is that really make, if that's the only card you have to play? Look, without being in the walls at Busch Stadium or in the offices, I'm sure that this scenario has been maybe talked about, like, hey, we're going to need to do this at some point. We put a timeline on this, right? End of June, if things aren't happening, what do we do? But I don't think they're going to approach either player asking if they'll waive a no trade clause. I mean, not after retaining Arenado in offseason, declining an opt out. But you got to wonder what that guy's thinking about that now. I do a lot. Like, do you regret that? Wilson, how do you like that signing? And you said you want to be a part of this. You really? This? I don't think he signed up for this. But it's a mess.
And look, Arenado's 32. Goldschmidt's 35. These guys aren't going to get any younger, and you can probably project that they're not going to be as good next year as they are this year.
And those two guys know that. They know they're in their 30s. If they want to win that badly, they could request it. You could see that potentially being there, but I don't think it comes from the Cardinals side of it. I'd be surprised if that were the case. I think the players would have to want that. Those two.
But if this team is in last place on June 1st, take Mo out of it, Ron. Somehow the DeWitts wake up, they fire Mo, and they hire you. Cardinals are in last place on June 1st. They're where they are now. They're one of the worst four teams in baseball on June 1st. Do you approach Nolan Arenado and Paul Goldschmidt and say, guys, you deserve better than this? We're not going anywhere anytime soon. We want your permission to explore trades so that you have an opportunity to go out in a better situation than this, and so that we have an opportunity to build a better organization.
I don't know. I don't know if that's something that I think has to happen or not, because my expectations now for this season, realistically, is not to turn it around and somehow, fight hard enough to where you can capture a wild card spot. My expectation is for this year, officially, for this team, is to not embarrass yourselves, and then think about my pitching staff for 24. And what else I need to do with the core of this team. I probably do try to keep the two corners intact, and have a real candid conversation with the owner about spending something on some supplemental arms. Look, the Cardinals didn't. Let me go back and give you an example, because I've seen it work. The Cardinals in 2000, the Cardinals in 2004 fortified their rotation. 2004, better example, right? 2003, they missed the playoffs. 2004, they came back and they supplemented their rotation with Jason Marquis and Jeff Suppan. Now, they had Chris Carpenter, who they'd signed as a free agent, but he wasn't the Chris Carpenter that we ended up knowing as the Cardinals. He was coming off injury, like he missed the entire 2003 season. So I think that was we got another guy, but they signed him a year prior to that. You can boost and fortify your rotation, and it doesn't take spending, Max Scherzer or Justin Verlander type money. and they can do that. So I think that's doable if I'm thinking ahead to 24. I'm thinking my guy that I traded Randy Arozarena for, I get him up in the rotation now. What the hell do you have to lose now? He cannot possibly do any worse than some of these other guys have done. Jack Flaherty's gone. I don't know if they even want him back, but I don't. He's done. He won't be a Cardinal next year. They'll have Michaelis and Matz. So they got to really start looking hard forward into 2024. Not embarrass yourselves in 23. Finally say goodbye to some of these players I've been talking about, like Tyler O'Neill. That experiment was over. You've had 26 major league startable players come through since 2018, and they still haven't figured out their fucking starting outfield for 6 years. They've been tootling around with that outfield for 6 years, and it's gotten shitty production almost every year. So I try to figure that part out too. But the pitching is going to be critical, and no, you don't have to bring in the top line guy. If you brought in a couple 3 or 4 starters, it would make a huge difference, especially, being in the division that we're in. So no, to answer your question in a very long way, sorry. I probably don't, I don't initiate the conversation with Nolan or Paul Goldschmidt on a deal. If they come to me, that's a different story. But no, I don't start there. I start looking at my staff for 24 and start putting things in place in 23. To make that a reality. You're not going to get anything for Tyler O'Neill, but I don't care if he plays the rest of the year with him, has a halfway decent year. I'm not going to pay him to come back, and I'm okay if he walks. I bring Jordan Walker up and let it play out there. I'm fine carrying Newt Barr over into next year. I think he brings enough value. Dylan Carlson, I don't know, man. Shorter and shorter leash for me. I just don't think he's produced worth a shit. I'd rather see Alec Burleson out there, which, compromises the defense, but defense isn't losing you games right now. It's inconsistency on offense and terrible pitching. So it's a very hard question to answer, Pete. Very good one. That's why I didn't have a big manifesto of what I think the Cardinals should do heading into this show tonight, because I could see a lot of different places you could start. But yeah. It does need to be tore down to an extent. It does need a renovation. I don't think it needs a tank. I don't think the Cardinals are going to do that. They've always, they've been public about not doing that. But it needs a renovation. It needs a good old fashioned Walt Jocketty 2000s renovation. You just hope you get you're dealing with a couple dumb enough GMs that you can fleece, like Walt used to be able to do. But other than that, it's a complex and shitty situation to have to work your way through, but they're going to have to do it. And I'm hoping that this recent performance, if it continues, sparks that. If that fire is not already lit, hopefully it does.
Ron, welcome to Cubs Fandom.
Yeah, look, the way is unentertaining, which is incredible for me to say. You know how much of a diehard fan I've been over the years, right? Like, we have done this show for over 6 years now, and I didn't do it if I didn't love the game and if love the team I rooted for, but it has been so painful and uninteresting to watch for several years. I don't want to try to just salvage it and just keep going like they're going. I want something meaningful done to make a difference, and they just haven't done that. Hopefully this can do it.
Yep.
But there's no elixir. There's no quick fix. I understand that. Just have to suffer through it.
Elliott and I will be rooting against it, but for your well-being, at least we're hopeful that things get kind of normal.
Well, we can all hope, but we'll see.
All right, Ron, realistically, how much longer are the Pirates actually able to do this? Seriously,
I don't.
They're 20-12.
I know.
They have the second best record in the National League.
They'll eventually, I think, come back to the pack a little bit more. They're going to have to. And you think about it, right, Pete, as bad as the NL Central is, it's now an unbalanced schedule, so that you can't bank on playing, the soft National League Central for, each team 18, 19 times a year. They're going to have to play, teams like Tampa Bay and New York and They're gonna have, they're
who they're actually playing right now, and they lost to Tampa 3-2.
They got swept, right? So,
yep.
Yeah, you can't hide in the National League Central as much as you could before. Now you still play those teams a little bit more, but your schedule's more spread out. The competition's more spread out. You're facing tougher divisions and guys that have, quite frankly, been in a more meaningful dogfight than you have ever. So I don't know. I don't think they're going to finish on top. Somehow I think the Brewers will probably fall into that by default. The Cubs could finish right behind them or with them. Just depends. This is the worst condition I remember this division being in. And it's been really bad.
It has.
For a while, which is probably that probably has something to do indirectly with the condition that the Cardinals are in, because for years they've been able to compete and beat up on this division, thinking that they were better than what they actually were. So this unbalanced schedule hasn't done them any favors, and I think maybe looking at it, the balanced schedule has exposed some things. But I don't think the balanced schedule has as much to do with it as just the makeup.
Yeah, I wonder how much because obviously I haven't dug into it. I wonder how much the Pirates' current record is a function of their schedule to date rather than their actual quality. And this is not to take anything away from that team. They do have some quality players on that team, but come on.
Yeah, no, it's hard for me to imagine.
Not a 20-12 team.
No, and I think, like I said, it's at this point, I think it's probably the Brewers and Cubs are probably going to finish 1-2. The Cardinals, if they start playing a little bit better, manage to do something, could end up third in this division. But at this point in time, I think they've taken themselves out of it, man. And we just barely in May. That's how quickly it happened.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Another thing, too, Pete, is that I've been hearing this a lot. That, one, failure to fortify the pitching was obviously that's something you've heard me say a bunch of times. And also, the Cardinals don't have a lot of those strikeout arms either. They have a lot of contact, pitch to contact. And with removing the shift from the game makes it even harder on those guys. So there's just so many things you look at and go, well, this is a contributor. That's a contributor. This is a contributor. It's just shitty.
And while they have strong defense at the corners, they're not as strong as up the middle.
No, they're not as strong as they have
been the last decade.
I mean, I wouldn't say defense is a weakness on the team by any means.
No.
But it's not sporting 4 or 5 Gold Glovers out there like it had been. For sure.
And it's different, right? Because it'll be interesting to see how the Gold Gloves and the defensive rankings shape up this year, because I think that you're probably going to get a truer measure of who the really good, especially infield defenders are. You probably had some guys in the last several years who may have seemed like they were better defenders than they actually are, simply because they were positioned well, and they might not have had to cover nearly as much ground because they were positioned optimally, and they're not good going to their left. Well, then you go ahead and you throw your second baseman out there in short right field, and all of a sudden your shortstop seems to have a lot more range and to be a lot better than he is. Well, now Cubs fans are seeing it firsthand just how good Dansby Swanson is at shortstop. The dude's got insane range. I didn't realize how good he was.
There are a handful of players in the league that are, if you don't value defense much, you will when they play for you, right?
Yep.
As Cardinals fans, we've always known the value of a good third baseman, right? We saw it with Scott Rowland, Terry Pendleton before that. I remember how good he was over in the hot corner, and so I understand it, seeing a Gold Glove center fielder, catcher. I mean, so yeah, they're difference makers, and they do. And not only are they ultra reliable with just the routine plays, and they don't make a lot of mental mistakes, but they'll save you a run or two week over week that average guys don't. But
Ron, you kind of left a little hole in there. I mean, obviously you were alluding to Nolan Arenado at third, but there's nobody to bridge the gap from Scott Rowland to Nolan Arenado. No salsa purveyors that you want to mention for their spectacular defenses over at the hot corner?
Definitely not him. No, they haven't. Look, they haven't, like, they maybe have had some average or below average guys over at third base, but I don't think they ever had anything that was like so detrimental to the team that it really stands out. But we also haven't had a Gold Glover at third base since Scott Rowland, so it's been huge. And not many Gold Gloves at first base, but as much of a difference as Arenado has made, Paul Goldschmidt's made the biggest difference of all in that defense, being at first base. He's had a ton to do with that. I don't mean to leave him off the list. And as far as catching goes, we're going to talk about, is going to bring up Contreras and Cardinals Twitter as predicted. Part of the blame of the shortfall of the pitching is going to be on Wilson Contreras' his inability to call a game.
Wait, what? No, really?
Well,
but I thought he was a brilliant signing.
Well, here's the thing, right? With that PitchCom, is that what it's called?
Yeah.
The system. These grown-ass men also have the ability to shake off a sign, especially a veteran like Michaelis or Matz, right? They don't have to go along. Now, I realize the pitch clock might make that a little bit more complicated, but these grown-ass men also can shake off a sign and pick something else. And so that's one thing I'll argue against. Does Wilson have total control over that pitcher's mind? No, he doesn't. I said it before the year even started. I don't care if Molina was back there in his prime. This pitching staff sucks. And yes, it's understandable because Wilson's an outsider that a lot of Cardinal fans, since he's not a homegrown guy, are going to turn on him a little bit. And they've done that predictably. And I think they're idiots for doing it. I'm sure their catchers you put back there, the numbers are going to look a little bit better. I don't think you're going to stick anybody back there and say, "Oh fuck, man, look what a difference that guy made." No, I don't hang the pitching on him. I was going to give him a pretty long leash, and I thought most Cardinals fans would too. But I guess with a 10-22 record, they got to look to fire their shots at some people, and it's going to be Ollie Marmol right now, Wilson Contreras, and John Mozeliak. They're getting them. So, no,
well, I think that at this point,
Wilson's fault that Jack Flaherty coughed up 10 runs today. Yeah, okay.
Oh, what Flaherty said, right? I didn't get pulled because I took the ball off my arm. I got pulled because I sucked.
Well, good for him. Fucking coming out and saying it at least. Yeah. I think you run once you give up that many runs, you sound foolish saying anything else. You really had no choice.
Yep, exactly. Well, it's a shorter episode this week, largely because Elliott's not here. And the interrupter hasn't jumped in, but
no, he had something going on tonight. He wasn't. Oh, he's watching Guardians of the Galaxy 3, which I am going to try to find time to watch that one because that one is more local, and I'll try to. That franchise is worth going to the theater to pay, and paying to see for sure. So I'll try to make. That's where he's at tonight. So he's probably he's going to be back later. So we timed it well if we didn't want him busting in here like just going off like a furnace. A big furnace blast for about 15 minutes where we can't get a word in. I have to mute him. It's likely what would have happened.
Well, maybe you'll have to post a special Braden-only episode this weekend.
Just have him leave me a voicemail, and I'll just throw it up there.
There you go.
Yeah. All right,
my friend. Enjoy your Star Wars weekend. And if you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to comment and subscribe. And if you want to help spread the word, please give us a 5-star review and tell your friends to do the same. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever else you listen to podcasts, as well as Rumble, Facebook, and YouTube. Be sure to check out the other Gateway City Sports Network podcasts, including the Derek King Sports Show. That's a winter podcast. Talking Sports in the Bleachers with Don Glenn. 2 for 3 with Moose Michaels. And XFL STL, we think it's got a new name. You can find Elliott on Twitter at TOR_Elliott. You can find Ron at
TR_Ron75.
And finally, get in touch with us at the show at teamofrivalspodcast.com or on any social media channel at Team of Rivals Pod. All right, my friend.
All right. Well, this may have been the lowest energy show that I've produced. But who's surprised? I'm not. This guy's not for sure. But thanks for taking us out, Pete. Yeah, we'll see what the record looks like next week. Maybe maybe they eke out a win by the time we talk, and they'll be 11 and 37, something like that. Anyway, until next week, until that time, love you all so much. Bye, everyone.